The city's skyline glittered with power, each skyscraper a monument to wealth and ambition. But inside the most luxurious ballroom of the Zenith Tower, the atmosphere was anything but celebratory. The gala had been meant to honor Armin Hale, the youngest self-made billionaire CEO in the country. A man carved from steel and ice, ruthless in boardrooms, untouchable in scandals. He stood at the center of it all, sharp in his black suit, raising a glass to toast his empire. And then he collapsed. The crystal stem shattered against marble floors. Gasps rippled through the crowd as his tall frame hit the ground, motionless. "Call an ambulance," voices shrieked. "Is he breathing? Oh my God, he's turning pale." Chaos erupted. Security shoved paparazzi away, aides scrambled, but no one dared touch him. Through the glass doors at the edge of the ballroom, a thin figure froze. She didn't belong here, Layla, a homeless girl who had slipped in, drawn by the warmth and the scent of food. Her clothes were worn, her hair tangled, yet her eyes, fierce, searching, locked onto the man sprawled under the chandelier's unforgiving light. Her chest tightened. She had seen death before, on cold winter pavements where forgotten souls faded quietly. But this man was not fading quietly. He was surrounded, yet utterly abandoned. "Move aside. We need paramedics," someone yelled. But the minutes dragged. His lips were losing color. "Blood loss," a trembling assistant muttered. "The condition, his rare disorder. He needs a transfusion. He has an impossible blood type." The words sent panic across the room. Everyone looked around, helpless. No one matched. No one moved. Layla stepped forward. Her voice cracked, but carried through the silence. I'm that type." Heads turned. Whispers ignited instantly. "Who is she? A beggar? Is this a joke?" "She'll infect him. Get her out." Layla's hand shook, but her chin rose defiantly. She met the scorn with fire. "You're standing here in gowns and diamonds while he dies. I don't care who he is. I can save him." Security blocked her, but a doctor in the crowd, one of Armin's private physicians, hesitated, eyes narrowing. "What's your blood type?" he demanded. "O negative." The physician paled. The universal donor, the only one compatible with his rare strain. He looked at Armin's fading face, then at Layla's determined eyes. "Bring her through." The crowd erupted in protests, but Layla was already pulled beside him. As the medical team scrambled to prepare, she knelt by the unconscious CEO. His skin was clammy, his breath shallow. For the first time, she saw him not as a billionaire on magazine covers, but as a man, fragile, breakable. Her fingers brushed his wrist. "Don't you dare give up," she whispered fiercely, as if he could hear her. "You have everything, don't throw it away. I've survived with nothing. If I can keep fighting, so can you." The transfusion began. Pain seared her arm as the needle pierced, but she clenched her jaw, watching the crimson thread of her blood flow into him. The room seemed to hold its breath. Minutes crawled. His pulse flickered. Then, faintly, color returned to his lips. His chest rose with a deeper breath. A murmur swept the ballroom. Relief. Disbelief. The Titan had not fallen. Layla swayed, lightheaded, but refused to look away. She thought she saw his eyelids twitch, a flicker of awareness. And then his eyes opened, steel gray, unfocused, but sharp enough to catch hers. For a single, electrifying moment, the dying CEO and the homeless girl locked gazes. The world fell away. No wealth, no poverty, no empire, no shame. Only the raw bond of life exchanged, a silent promise forged in blood. "Who are you?" His voice rasped, barely audible. Layla's lips parted, but before she could answer, security surged forward, pulling her back. Nurses swarmed, cameras flashed. She was swallowed in the chaos, her presence dismissed as quickly as it had been tolerated. Yet Armin's weak hand lifted, reaching toward the space where she had been. His empire, his fortune, his power. None of it had saved him. But she had. And as Layla stumbled toward the exit, dizzy and ignored, a single thought burned through her haze. Why did it feel like fate had just chained her to him? The hospital corridors smelled of antiseptic and power. Security guards in black suits stood like statues, blocking the way to the VIP wing where Armin Hale, the billionaire CEO, lay recovering. The news had already spread like wildfire. Titan falls at gala. Mysterious girl saves him. But while the media speculated about his condition, the girl who had bled for him sat on a hard plastic chair outside the ER, shivering under the harsh fluorescent lights. Layla. Her arm throbbed where the needle had pierced, and her head swam from blood loss. Yet no one offered her water. No one thanked her. She was invisible again, except for the pitying glances of nurses who whispered behind her back. She shouldn't even be here. Security will throw her out soon. Layla's hands curled into fists. Fine. Let them. She wasn't expecting gratitude, but her chest still burned from the way they had yanked her away from him, as though her blood wasn't pulsing through his veins right now. A door clicked open. The physician who had overseen the transfusion stepped out, adjusting his glasses. Everyone surged forward, reporters, executives, bodyguards. How is he? One demanded. Will the company need to announce? Is the chairman stable? He's alive, the doctor confirmed curtly. Relief rippled through the crowd. But he needs rest. Absolutely no disturbances. Layla exhaled shakily. Alive. That was all that mattered. But as she pushed herself to leave, a cold voice snapped. You. Stop. One of Armin's senior executives, a polished man in a navy suit, blocked her path. His eyes scanned her ragged clothes with disdain. You caused enough spectacle tonight. Whatever stunt you pulled is over. Do not think you can use this accident to get close to Mr. Hale. Heat rose in Layla's cheeks. Stunt. Her voice trembled with fury. I gave him my blood. If I hadn't, he would be dead right now. The man's lip curled. People like you always want something. Money, fame, pity. Don't test our patience. Security. He gestured, and 2 guards moved toward her. Layla's breath hitched. Every instinct screamed to run, to vanish back into the shadows of the city. But something inside her snapped instead. She planted her feet, her voice ringing across the hall. I don't want your money. I don't want your pity. But don't you dare pretend I don't exist. He's breathing because of me, and you all know it. The corridor froze. Even the guards hesitated. Layla's chest heaved, eyes blazing as she went on, softer now but cutting like glass. You stand around in your suits and diamonds, but when he needed you, you did nothing. I'm nobody, but I saved him. So don't you ever tell me I don't matter. For a moment, silence reigned. Whispers rose at the edges, shock, indignation. And then, another voice, rough but commanding, drifted from behind the half-open door. Let her through. Every head whipped around. Armin Hale stood in the doorway, pale but unbowed, and 4 trailing from his arm. His gray eyes, sharper than the scalpel of any surgeon, locked onto Layla. The executive stammered, Sir, you shouldn't. I said, his voice carried like thunder, let her through. Layla's breath caught. The man she thought unconscious, untouchable, was awake. And he was looking at her as though she were the only person in the hallway. Security stepped aside. Armin's gaze didn't waver as he extended a trembling hand. You. Come inside. Layla's feet moved before her mind could catch up, the sea of gaping faces parting reluctantly as she passed. Inside the dim hospital suite, the door closed behind her. Machines beeped softly, shadows stretching across the walls. He lowered himself back onto the bed, still watching her with unsettling intensity. You, he said hoarsely, gave me your blood. Layla swallowed. Yes. You would have died. His lips twitched, almost a bitter smile. Everyone in that room would have let me. He studied her torn jacket, her dirt-smudged cheeks. Except you. Something heavy pressed between them. Gratitude? Curiosity? Something darker? Layla shifted under his stare. Don't look at me like that. I'm not a hero. I just couldn't watch you die. Armin's hand curled into the blanket. What's your name? Layla. He repeated it, tasting the syllables like a secret. Then his eyes hardened, unreadable. Layla, you've done something no one has ever dared. You've made me owe you. The words hung in the air, dangerous and binding. Her pulse quickened. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt the ground tilt beneath her. Because the look in his eyes wasn't just gratitude. It was obsession. And she had no idea what price he intended to pay for the blood now flowing in his veins. The steady beeping of the heart monitor echoed through the sterile hospital room, each sound a reminder that Alexander Knight, the most feared and admired CEO in the city, was alive when the world had already buried him in whispers. Elena sat slouched in the corner, her hoodie pulled tight around her frail shoulders, dried streaks of blood on her arm where the nurses had drawn too much too fast. They hadn't even thanked her. They never do. To them, she was nothing more than the homeless girl who had been dragged in by fate. But she had seen it. The moment her blood entered his veins, his body had jolted like a man pulled back from the abyss. That memory haunted her, shattering every time she blinked. Suddenly, a low groan broke through the silence. Her head snapped up. Alexander's fingers twitched against the crisp white sheets, his breathing growing heavier. His lips parted, and his voice, hoarse but commanding even in weakness, rasped out, "Where am I?" Elena's breath caught in her throat. The nurses hadn't returned. She was the only one there. "You're alive," she whispered, her voice trembling as though afraid the words themselves might vanish. "They said you wouldn't make it, but," she clenched her fists, "I gave you my blood." His eyes fluttered open, dark and piercing even in their haze. He focused on her, confusion mixing with an odd flicker of recognition. "You." His brow furrowed. Why would you save me?" She froze. No one had asked her why. Not even she had the answer. "I don't know," Elena admitted, her voice raw. "Maybe because everyone else gave up." Silence swelled between them. He studied her like a puzzle he couldn't solve. His world was one of loyalty bought, power earned, betrayal expected. And yet here was a girl who had nothing to gain, and had given him everything. His chest rose shakily as he rasped, "What's your name?" She hesitated. Names meant vulnerability. Names meant being seen. "Elena," she finally murmured. "Elena," he repeated it slowly, tasting the unfamiliar softness on his tongue. Then, almost painfully, his voice hardened. "Don't tell anyone. If they know what you did, they'll use you against me." Her heart skipped. Why would anyone care about me? I'm nobody. A sharp flash of anger crossed his weak features. "You're not nobody. Not anymore." The door burst open. A flood of doctors and security stormed in, their faces alight with disbelief. They swarmed around Alexander, shouting orders, checking vitals. No one looked at Elena. No one asked about the pale, exhausted girl whose blood still stained the CEO's skin. A nurse grabbed her wrist roughly. "You shouldn't be here."
"Out."
Elena jerked back, her eyes darting to Alexander one last time. But his gaze was already hidden beneath the chaos of people. She let them push her out into the cold hallway. Her knees buckled against the wall, her chest tight. She should leave. She didn't belong in this world of steel and glass, of billionaires and boardrooms. She had already done more than anyone ever expected of her. And yet her heart ached. Inside the room, Alexander's voice roared over the commotion. "Where is she?" The crowd froze. "Where is the girl?" His tone, though weak, cut like steel. The staff exchanged uneasy glances. "She was just a vagrant, sir. Security is removing her." "Stop." His words silenced the entire room. Everyone turned, stunned, as Alexander Knight, billionaire CEO, survivor of a death sentence, gripped the railing of his bed and rasped out, "No one touches her. No one lays a hand on her. She's under my protection now." Out in the hallway, Elena heard it. Her heart slammed against her ribs. For the first time in years, someone had spoken as if her life mattered. But she also knew being under his protection meant stepping into a storm far deadlier than the streets she had survived. The morning light filtered through the towering glass windows of St. Clair's Hospital, casting sharp beams across the polished floor. Elena sat on a bench near the emergency exit, her body trembling, her mind replaying Alexander's words. She's under my protection now. Her pulse hadn't stopped racing since. No one had ever spoken like that for her. Never with authority, never with power. The streets had taught her that her life was disposable. And now one sentence from a dying man turned living miracle had made her visible. But visibility came with danger. Elena. Her head snapped up. It was him. Alexander Knight stood in the doorway, leaning heavily on a silver cane, his dark suit hanging looser than usual on his recovering frame, but his eyes, those commanding, storm-gray eyes, were alive with steel. Security flanked him like shadows, yet when he looked at her, the world fell away. You shouldn't be walking, she began, but he silenced her with a glance. I don't like being told what I can't do, he said, his voice low, rough from days of near-death. Especially not today. He extended a hand. Come with me. Her instinct screamed to run, but her legs disobeyed. Slowly, hesitantly, she took his hand, its warmth startling against her cold fingers. The hospital corridors blurred into luxury black cars, tinted windows, and then his world. The Knight estate rose like a fortress above the city, glass and steel meeting ancient stone, the kind of place Elena had only seen from afar. Now, she walked through its gates, her heart hammering, her torn sneakers squeaking against marble floors. Servants whispered. Guards stared. She wanted to disappear, but Alexander's voice anchored her. She saved my life, he announced flatly. Show her the respect you'd show me. Murmurs rippled through the hall. No one dared meet his gaze. Elena's throat tightened. She had spent years being unseen, ignored, discarded. Now every eye burned on her, but only because he demanded it. Later, in the quiet of his study, Alexander dismissed the staff and lowered himself into the leather chair behind a desk that looked more like a throne. Sit, he ordered. She perched on the edge of the seat across from him, wringing her hands. You don't belong on the streets, he said, studying her with unnerving intensity. Not after what you've done. From today forward, you're safe here. Food, shelter, clothes, protection. Whatever you need, it's yours. Her breath caught.
Why?
Why are you doing this? You don't even know me.
His jaw tightened.
I know enough. I know you gave me life when everyone else walked away. That makes you mine. The words stung.
Mine.
I'm not some possession, she said, her voice breaking but firm. For a moment, silence. Then, unexpectedly, his lips curved into the faintest ghost of a smile. There's fire in you, he murmured. Good. You'll need it. Hours passed in uneasy silence. He signed documents, spoke curtly to his assistant, gave orders as though death had never brushed him. Yet every so often, his gaze would drift to Elena, like a man trying to solve a riddle only she carried. When the grandfather clock struck midnight, thunder cracked outside. A storm rolled over the estate, rain lashing against the tall windows. Alexander stood, leaning on his cane. His face darkened. They'll come for me, Elena, he said, his voice a low growl. Whoever orchestrated my accident didn't finish the job. And now that I've survived, they'll try again. Her chest tightened. Then why bring me here? You're putting me in danger, too. He turned toward her, eyes fierce, unwavering. Because the moment you gave me your blood, your life became tangled with mine. Whether you like it or not, you're already in the storm. At least here, I can shield you. The room trembled with silence, the rain hammering harder. Elena's lips parted, but no words came. She hated it. The way his presence pulled her in, the way her chest ached at his raw certainty. He was dangerous, a storm in human form. And yet, against every instinct of survival, a part of her wanted to trust him. A knock shattered the moment. One of Alexander's men entered, face pale. Sir, we found something. At the gate. He handed over a small black envelope, slick with rain. Alexander opened it, his eyes narrowing at the bold, scarlet letters scrawled inside. Next time, no one will save you. His grip tightened until the paper crumpled. Elena's blood ran cold. For the first time since she met him, Alexander's mask cracked, just slightly. His eyes flickered to her, softer, almost pained. And in that silence, Elena realized two terrifying truths. Someone wanted him dead, and by saving him, she might have just painted a target on her own back. The storm had quieted, but the silence in the night estate felt heavier than thunder. Elena lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying the message that had shaken Alexander only hours before. Next time, no one will save you. Her stomach knotted. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't supposed to matter. And yet, here she was, sleeping under the same roof as the most powerful man she had ever met, a man marked for death. A sudden sound cut through the silence.
Click.
The faint metallic shift of a lock turning. Elena's pulse spiked. She sat up, straining to hear. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moved down the hallway. Not the firm stride of Alexander's guards. This was softer, predatory. Her door creaked open. A masked man slipped inside, his silhouette framed by moonlight, a knife glinting in his hand. Elena's breath hitched. Instinct screamed at her to scream, but her voice froze. She slid off the bed, pressing against the far wall, heart pounding so loud she feared it would give her away. The intruder moved closer. And then, "Don't move." The voice was ice, sharp and commanding. Alexander. He stood in the doorway, cane in one hand, a gun in the other, aimed steadily at the masked figure. His presence filled the room like a storm breaking open. The intruder lunged. The knife slashed toward Elena, but before it could reach her, Alexander fired. The gunshot echoed like thunder, the man collapsing only feet from where she stood, the blade clattering uselessly to the floor. Elena gasped, her body trembling uncontrollably, her back pressed against the cold wall. Alexander was already there, pulling her away, shielding her against his chest. "You're safe," he murmured, though his own breath came ragged. "I won't let them touch you." For the first time, his composure cracked, not in anger, but in fear. Fear for her. Minutes later, the estate swarmed with guards. The body was dragged away, security doubled, orders barked in sharp tones. But Alexander never left Elena's side. In his private study, the two of them sat in silence, the glow of the fireplace flickering across their faces. She stared at her trembling hands. "I shouldn't be here. This isn't my fight. I'm just no one." His jaw clenched. "Don't ever say that again." Her eyes flicked up to him, startled by the raw force in his voice. "You think you're nothing because the world treated you that way," Alexander continued, leaning forward, his gaze burning into hers. "But the night I should have died, it wasn't my billions, my empire, or my guards that saved me. It was you, your blood, your courage. You are not nothing, Elena. You are everything." Her chest tightened, breath shallow. The way he looked at her made her feel seen in a way that terrified her. "And now," he said, his tone softening, "they'll come after you too. Because you're connected to me. Which means I'll protect you with everything I have, even if you hate me for it." Elena's throat ached. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Why?" she whispered. "Why go this far for me?" For a moment, Alexander didn't answer. His gaze drifted to the fire, shadows flickering across his sharp features. Then, quietly, "Because the moment I opened my eyes and saw you, I realized I didn't want to die. And I don't want to live without you." The confession hung in the air, raw and dangerous. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. She wanted to push him away, to tell him he was wrong, that she was just a girl who had nothing. But deep inside, a spark she couldn't deny flared to life. The clock chimed 3. Suddenly, one of Alexander's guards burst into the room, face pale. "Sir, you need to see this." He handed over a tablet. On the screen was a live security feed from the estate's outer gates. A convoy of black SUVs lined the road outside, headlights glaring through the rain. Men in dark suits stood in formation, armed, waiting. The message was clear. This wasn't over. Alexander's eyes hardened as he set the tablet down. He reached for Elena's hand, gripping it firmly, his voice low but steady. "They've declared war." Elena's breath caught, and for the first time, she realized she wasn't just caught in a storm. She was the storm's center. The night pressed heavy against the estate, storm clouds bruising the sky. The convoy of black SUVs still glared outside the gates, their engines humming like predators circling prey. Inside, silence reigned, except for the sharp tick of the grandfather clock and Elena's quickening heartbeat. She stood beside Alexander in the study, his hand still wrapped firmly around hers. His grip was strong, but she could feel the faint tremor in it, the weight of a man who had fought death and was now staring down another war. "They're not just here for me," he said at last, his eyes locked on the flickering security feed. "They want to destroy everything I've built. My company, my empire, my life." Elena swallowed hard. "Then let me go. If I leave, they'll stop targeting me. I don't want to drag you down." Alexander turned on her sharply, his voice cutting like steel. "Don't you understand? You're the reason I'm standing here at all. Without you, I'm already dead." Her breath caught, her chest tightening with a mix of fear and something dangerously close to longing. Before she could respond, the study doors slammed open. "Sir." One of his guards stumbled in, blood staining his sleeve. "We've been compromised." Someone inside, his words faltered, his eyes rolling back before he collapsed to the floor. Alexander's men rushed forward, dragging him away, but the truth had already detonated. There was a traitor inside. Minutes later, chaos erupted. Alarms blared. Shadows moved across the estate, men in black pouring through broken gates. The attack had begun. Elena was shoved into a hidden corridor, Alexander's arm wrapped protectively around her as they descended into the bowels of the mansion. The world shook with gunfire above, shouts echoing through the walls. "Where are we going?" she demanded, panic threading her voice. "To the vault," Alexander replied. "It's the safest place. Reinforced steel. No one gets in." They reached the chamber, a fortress of cold iron. The heavy doors groaned shut behind them, sealing them into silence broken only by their ragged breaths. But safety came with suffocating stillness. Elena pressed against the wall, clutching her arms around herself. Her body trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of everything. "I don't belong here," she whispered. "I don't belong in your world, Alexander. I'm just a homeless girl who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time." His cane clattered as he crossed the room, standing before her. His hand cupped her chin, forcing her gaze to meet his. "You keep saying that, as if your worth is measured by the dirt on your shoes or the roof you don't have. Do you know what I see when I look at you, Elena?" His voice lowered, raw, unguarded. "I see the woman who gave me her blood when everyone else gave up on me. I see the only person who didn't want my money, my power, or my name. You saw me. Not the CEO, not the empire.
Me."
Her eyes burned with tears. "Why me?" His answer came like a confession torn from his soul. "Because you stole my heart the moment you saved my life." The silence that followed was louder than gunfire. Elena's chest ached, her heart fighting the walls she had built around it. She wanted to resist, to run, but she couldn't. His words, his eyes, his trembling hands, everything told her this was real. And then, without warning, the steel door shuttered. A voice rang out from the other side, muffled but clear. "Open up, Alexander. End this, or we'll burn your empire to ash." The blood drained from Alexander's face. He recognized the voice. His brother's. Elena's eyes widened as realization hit. "Your own family?" His jaw tightened, fury blazing in his gaze. "He's wanted my position for years. Tonight, he made his move." The steel groaned under the pounding assault. Time was running out. Alexander turned back to Elena, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. If they break through, don't stay by my side.
Run.
Promise me." Her heart clenched.
No.
"I won't leave you." "Elena." His voice broke, the iron mask of a CEO shattering, revealing the man beneath. If I lose you, then saving me was for nothing. You've given me life, and I'll give you mine if I have to. That's the deal." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She shook her head, her voice trembling but fierce.
No.
"If you fall, I fall with you. That's the deal." Their eyes locked in a storm of fire and despair. And then, in the flickering glow of the vault's emergency light, Alexander pulled her close, his lips crashing onto hers with the desperation of a man who didn't know if he'd live another hour. The kiss was raw, searing, full of everything they hadn't dared say until now. And just as the steel doors screeched, beginning to buckle under the assault, they broke apart, breathless, trembling, but bound by something no bullet could shatter. Alexander turned toward the threat, his cane steady, his jaw set like stone. "Elena," he said, his voice calm, final. "No matter what happens when that door breaks, you've already won. You've already saved me." The vault shuddered again. Sparks flew. The doors began to give way. And as the enemy stormed closer, Elena realized this was no longer just a fight for his empire. It was a fight for their hearts.